As you settle into your snifter of single malt, tens of concerned senators are working all night to avoid catastrophe in our nation's capital. Are they putting together an aid package to Ukraine, strategizing on how to make and keep people free in Venezuela? No, they're in their jammies and slippers, pulling an all-nighter, sipping cocoa with little marshmallows, talking about a very big problem. Can a sleepless night on the Senate floor turn the tide of global climate change? Kim Jong-un has a better chance of running opposed by Rand Paul in the next round of North Korean elections. Don't bet on it. Sip away on your favorite beverage of choice, from Snowden to Ukraine and that damn missing plane. It's a good night to play drinking games with us. This is The Independent. Hello and happy Monday. I'm Kennedy. Thank you so much for being with us. I am joined tonight by Reason Magazine editor-in-chief Matt Welch, who edits the finest publication in the land. Camille Foster not only looks good, he thinks clearly. He's also from Free Think Media, so he's thinking clearly and freely. We are The Independents. Joining us tonight on our party panel, she's on the right side of history, at least she hopes. It's Kayleigh McEnany. She's the editor of Political Prospect, and she looks glorious like a beacon of spring, and so does he, if spring were tepid.
A male model?
And a male model who had long since retired. Gavin McInnes. He's a TakiMag.com contributor, and he's our good friend. Welcome, party panel.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Very much welcome. And don't look now, but the grand old party is getting younger by the day. How do you defeat an inflexible wing of Republicans when you know their stale ideas have turned off a majority of the country? You outlive them. And that's just what some liberty-minded college students have done at the marquee conservative event. It's called CPAC. It's just outside D.C. last week. Attendees had some surprisingly clear-minded views on federalism. Take a look.
We used to call it federalism.
That's funny. So, Fred,
If I could say it, it would be.
do you think federalism should extend to marijuana rights and same-sex marriage for states? Should they decide?
Yeah, I think pretty much.
Do you think that men should marry men and women should marry women if they so choose?
No.
Should the states decide, or should there be a federal mandate?
States should decide that.
Again, I think that's a state-by-state decision.
Do you think conservatives are using more federalist approach to social issues?
They should be.
I may not agree with what a particular state does on a particular issue, for the most part, unless it really does violate fundamental constitutional principles. They have a right to do what they see fit.
And you know what they see fit to doing? Letting men and men marry men. And women, and the whole deal. That video courtesy of Meredith Bragg. He produced it for Reason TV. And I got some interesting answers. Those were not the types of things I expected at CPAC. I expected a bunch of cranky curmudgeons dug into the ditches of social conservatism. What I found was, interestingly, some surprisingly cosmopolitan views from the older and younger set. Clearly, they were influenced by the younger generation of conservatives.
It's interesting to watch outlets like the American Conservative magazine and sort of right-of-center press. They're all using headlines like social conservatives are negotiating the terms of surrender on gay marriage and on marijuana as well. And it was true.
Are they using marijuana to come to terms with the fact that they have to surrender on gay marriage?
This is quite possible. I mean, Fred Thompson, in your interview, he said, hey, look, it's great that Colorado's doing this. I want to see how it works, this experiment. I mean, imagine a Republican not named Ron Paul or Gary Johnson saying that even in 2012. It's kind of, that's crazy land. But that's happening now, and it's interesting. And they realize that the only juice in the party right now at CPAC, which is overrepresented among young people and of libertarians.
Hasn't always been that way.
Hasn't always been that way, but it's definitely been like that the last 5-6 years. But that's where all the passion in the parties come from, and the Tea Party as well. The Tea Party, which isn't made up of social libertines, nonetheless takes a pretty libertarian view towards these issues. And if you talk to people on criminal justice reform, a bunch of stuff, they say it's the Tea Party who are out there saying, let's be federalist about this and let's focus on the stuff that matters, which is that we're spending ourselves into oblivion.
How important is federalism?
I'm not sure how important federalism is. I mean, in my own opinion, if that is going to be the new party line and the excuse for how we advance these various social issues at the state level, then I'd prefer that they stay away from it. I don't think it's appropriate for the government at the state or federal level to be deciding who can marry whom. That seems inappropriate for government to be involved in that at all.
All right.
So just on that specific issue, I'll give you that much. But wasn't the headline, I mean, coming out of CPAC this weekend, the Rand Paul victory for the second year in a row?
Yeah, that's what I want to ask Kayleigh about. Now, Kayleigh, last time you were here, you were really waffling between Rand Paul and Chris Christie. You could not decide personally or representing the party which way Republicans should go. Should it be in a more libertarian direction, or, you know, should we have a big bully like Chris Christie running the show, running the party? He got a very tepid response from people at CPAC.
No, Rand Paul is the prototypical idea of what a Republican candidate should look like. He's widening.
So you've made up your mind.
He's broadening the tent, which is exactly what we need, bringing in young people. Young people are very receptive to libertarian views, and that's exactly what he's doing. But let us not forget, he is pro-life. He is pro-sanctity of marriage. He believes it's a state issue, yes, and he doesn't highlight those issues. I don't think they should be the focus of any Republican campaign. And those aren't winning issues per se, but he's exactly what a candidate should look like. Has values, not willing to sacrifice them, but he's going to broaden the tent.
You can still have values and love. You can still high-five gay people and have your Christian values.
No, I totally agree, and I think there's a compromise to be made on that issue personally. So.
All right, what do you think, Gavin? Are you ready to compromise?
Totally. I was part of the compromise. And I think it's a myth that these old conservatives are reluctant to embrace libertarianism or get rid of social conservatism. I think the really old ones were in a war. They were riding their motorbike in Africa and smoking pot, and they fell in love with a fat chick in Italy.
These guys, in the world are you talking about?
In Palermo.
I don't follow.
So they have been.
Are we talking about Bob Dole?
So when you say to them, look, gay marriage and drug war is causing some problems, just because something makes you gag, you should let it go. And they're starting to go, fine, I blew a guy's head off in Palermo. I can handle it. And I think they're coming aboard.
Yeah, at the federal or the state level, the argument that somehow
and by the way, Bob
is...
Dole did take extreme issue with Ted Cruz's remarks. He did. No, I'm speaking of that prototypical World War II hero that I believe you're speaking of, correct?
I am indeed, yes.
All right, very good.
Guys who started cool.
And the gang, Camille?
No, I was just suggesting that so far, I'm sorry.
Find your words.
I've lost my train of thought.
Okay,
on the marriage issue.
I will not marry you. You're married to Tracy, and I adore you, and I love working next to you.
On the
You
marriage
can be
issue,
my work husband.
the notion that gay marriage somehow threatens traditional marriage is pretty silly and ridiculous.
But
I mean, 50% of marriages are ending in divorce. If marriage is in jeopardy, it's because people aren't staying married.
There's a compromise to be made. Leave marriage to the church, let terms dole it out how they see fit, give everyone civil unions, everyone's equal in the eyes of government. Everyone visits their partner in the hospital.
I've advocated for that for years.
Amen. God.
Love it.
Good.
Thank you very much. All right, we are looking live at the heated and important goings-on on Capitol Hill. Several Senate members have followed John Kerry's impressive lead. They're staging a sleep-in on the Senate floor. You can see them right there. Is that Barbara Boxer gesticulating wildly? My goodness. We'll check back in as the fireworks undoubtedly heat up on one of the hottest button issues on this boiling planet. Oh, there they go. They're just taking global climate change by storm.
Do you know what the great thing about this is? It's that...
Is that she's not your senator? Yes, you're very lucky.
So happy. No, that they think now after, especially Rand Paul's filibuster last year, but also Ted Cruz's to another degree, that this is how you get sexy. So, let's talk for a really long time on the Senate floor. It's going to be an awesome filibuster.
If my bunions aren't swelling by 11:30, I've failed. I mean, that's what I say every night when we go to Langens.
Well, this is the newest, sexiest metaphorical war, the war on science, apparently, where it's all of the climate deniers versus the people who passionately believe in science. But I think that's a bit of a canard. Yeah. I mean, what you really have playing out here is a general consensus from most people that, yes, the Earth is warming. The real question is, what should we, if anything, do about it? And what can we do about it? And that's a practical question to ask.
It's a practical question that's very difficult to answer, Camille.
Yeah, but is it man-made? That's the thing. 31,000 U.S. scientists have signed on to a petition that it's not man-made. And look, quite frankly, this shows how out of touch Democrats are. 40% of people don't think, 40% do think it's a problem. 60% do not. It's not a problem. It's not what the American people want.
It wasn't a problem in the 2012 election. Gavin, what would you like to say about global warming?
I think that we need to sort of have a moment of silence for the poor congressional aides who are going to be doing Adderall all night trying to keep up with these morons who think that they can cure the most complex science in history in 24 hours. I mean, their arrogance.
We hope they're taking Adderall.
Insane.
We're talking about Democrats here, so.
Well,
a little stronger than
or
that.
else they're going to get really chronic diarrhea from all that coffee. This is about the 20-year-olds who are running up and down with little notes, those poor bastards.
Yes, but you know what they have? They have idealistic minds and firm buns. So I have all the faith in the world in those.
That might end up curing it, is their buns.
That's absolutely right, Gavin. If you could harness the energy in one set of buttocks from
Even
a
just
professional
one
staffer,
bun.
you could
just
light the
get
city
energy
of San
from a
Francisco
bun.
for a day. It is science. Yes. Well, if Gandhi were alive today, he would beat the living piss out of Justin Bieber. The Canadian man boy had his day in court. Well, not really. He had an unnecessarily lippy deposition. Our panel will take apart this useless piece of moose dung next.
I invented sweat, popping bottles, putting supermodels in the cab. Proof, I guess I got my swagger back. Truth, new watch alert, new blows.
Welcome back to The Independents, where we support your right to deport Canadian pop stars. Our panel is back, Kayleigh and Gavin. And one of them has great facial hair, and the other lives in Brooklyn. So stupid.
That was insulting.
It really was. To you, Gavin. And I'm sorry. Everyone hates Justin Bieber. There are no fresh poll numbers in, but he's slightly south of Stalin this week. He's awful. And notice I said Stalin. I did not violate Godwin's law. Thank you. He sat through a 4-hour deposition over accusations that his bodyguard manhandled a paparazzo. And we finally got to hear his voice and see what this pointless punk ass is really made of. Roll the tape.
Have you ever disciplined Mr. Hesney?
Disciplined? What kind of question is that? Is he my son? Guess what? Question? Guess what? I don't recall.
Have you ever talked with Selena Gomez and discussed your feelings about paparazzis with her?
About her again. Don't ask me about her again.
Let's take a break. You know what? Just stop.
We gotta take a break. Don't ask me about her again.
The client's not asking for a break.
Don't ask me about her again.
Ooh, because I will fight you with my 19-year-old lady arms. Sorry, that's an insult to women. What is wrong with him? I can't turn away. I want him deported. I was having a conversation this weekend. My 8-year-old asked me, what has Justin Bieber done to break the law lately? But she calls him Justin Bieber, which is really funny, and I refused to correct her. And I told her that, he had been caught speeding, he egged a house, he maybe hit someone, and he had to spend a day in jail. And my 4-year-old said, did he die? Not yet, dear. Is that awful? He brings up a kind of rage in me that even Lindsay Lohan couldn't touch.
Yeah, I don't feel the sense of rage. He's a total D-bag in every sense, and you want him to actually have to fight that guy that he's looking at threateningly. Like, don't say that to me again. Don't say that to me. Okay, let's remove the barrier between him and you.
Doesn't he realize he's being videotaped, A, and B, every word of this is going into the record?
I keep thinking this is all a Joaquin Phoenix stunt, that we're going to wake up, there's going to be some made-up documentary 2 years from now, and he's going to say, yeah, surprise, it's all Chris
I'm actually
Gaines.
a plasma physicist. I'm one dissertation away from getting my PhD. I'm a really bright kid, and I love animals and humans.
I don't know. I'm thinking about the Beliebers here, and I feel bad for them. My heart goes out to them.
Because I'm a contrarian. My name's Camille.
I'm thinking about the Beliebers. That's not being
I believe this kid is full of garbage. Okay, go ahead.
I'm with you, Kennedy. I think deportation shouldn't just be for terrorists and criminals, but for national embarrassments like this guy. And by the way, 250,000 people agree with you. They signed a White House petition to get him deported. Yeah. So let's start it here on the Independents. Get Justin Bieber deported. Sign on to the petition.
Stop. Yeah. Stop this insanity, okay? Don't you remember what a horrible person you were when you were 20? We were all nightmares.
No.
Now, take
awesome.
that dick of a human being you were.
Okay, all right. No.
Now give that monster $1 billion, and now give him pot that is at least 4 times stronger than anything we've ever even read about. So basically LSD. So LSD and $1 billion to a jerk.
This is what you get.
You know what?
What you get.
Little sympathy.
Paul Allen. Look at Paul Allen. He was young when he became very successful. He's a billionaire like 600 times over.
Look at Justin Bieber.
You know what?
This
Paul Allen
young
grew
man
facial
needs
hair
help.
in a petri dish.
Okay.
For those of us who have girls, we want them to be strong. We want them to be assertive individuals who are fearlessly independent. Saturday Night Live did a spoof of what not to call girls. Take a look.
Girls are less interested in leadership than boys.
And that's because they worry about being called
Bossy.
We need to tell them it's okay to be ambitious.
We need to help them lean in.
Words matter.
Let's just ban the word bossy. I'm not bossy. I'm the boss.
Oh, that wasn't a comedy sketch? Oh, that was real. Fun. Well, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen, or at least something I've seen in a long, long time. Do you really think that girls are that stupid? They don't know the difference between words like bossy, ambitious, and independent? Keep bossy. Bossy sucks. We should be expanding vocabularies, not limiting them. I don't have a problem with the word bossy. Some people are bossy, and that's not good.
I can't believe that I'm going to be telling my daughter about there was a time when the left in the United States, when it was first calling and wrapping itself around a movement called the free speech movement, she's going to say that's absolute fiction. That's something that happened in no, seriously, in another generation. Yeah. They sat there and 3 or 4 of these people banned bossy. Seriously, we're
ban the word.
Ban the word bossy.
Some girls are bossy.
What's the word that we can use to describe about like telling people what to do in a fuss budgety type of way and very kind of nagging and controlling but pointless?
Certainly not bossy.
That word is going to be.
Because that is misogynist. So don't use that word anymore.
Pesky, statist.
Yeah,
well,
I don't know.
And let's look at
Kayleigh, go ahead, dear.
Who's leading this? Beyonce, who just let that song Partition out and talked about Monica Lewinskying on someone's dress. Like, before you lecture women on being leaders and try to train young women, be a leader yourself for your 2-year-old daughter. I mean, come on, Beyonce.
Ooh, you're gonna let that stand?
It's a good song. It's a good song.
You like it?
Yeah, it's a good song.
Really?
Yeah. Are we? Come on, seriously? We'll debate music in the next segment. I don't want to do that now. It's a great song.
I don't agree with everything. And you know what? Don't ban bossy, keep ambitious, keep glorious, keep beautiful. What's wrong with any of those words? When someone is out of line and they are controlling and not that rad to be around, you can call them bossy. I've said it. Keep bossy. All right, very good. Thank you very much, panel.
Thank you.
Will you guys stick around for the after show?
We'd love to.
It's a win-win for everyone involved. We'll tell you how to get in on that action a little later. Guam is the new Puerto Rico, believe it or not. A lot of mainland U.S. politicians can learn something from this U.S. territory. They can create a surplus, but can they vote for president? Watch, learn, liberty. This is The Independent, and by the way, we are keeping track of the all-nighter global warming fighter on the Senate floor in Washington, D.C. We have lawmakers that are standing at the ready in case the sun explodes. They will be there with legislation. As you can see in the corner of the screen, that is live on the Senate floor.
Is that Al Franken?
It sure is. It might be. I can't see. It's Al Franken is exactly. Very good call.
Thank you.
They are.
You should see his Mick Jagger impersonation. It's phenomenal.
That's right. All right. Well, if there is an island somewhere with fruity drinks and a lust for slashing budgets, we will be there, metaphorically. Guam has created its own economic miracle over the last 2 years. They started off 2011 with a $36 million deficit, and by the end of 2012, when we were supposed to disintegrate, thanks to the end of the Mayan calendar, they had a $30 million surplus. So how did they do it? And what can U.S. politicians learn from one of our faraway territories? Look how far you'd have to fly in a plane to visit Guam. Governor Eddie Calvo, he joins us. Governor, hello.
Lennis and Huff a day. Good morning from Guam, and good evening to all you folks there on the East Coast.
Good morning.
Kennedy, I got to correct you. That wasn't a $30 million deficit. It was a $330 million deficit that we inherited.
Yes, you had a deficit of 336. You had a surplus of 30 million at the end of 2012.
Yep.
Sweet. Well, thank you. If I misstated that, forgive me.
It was a gargantuan task, and what happened is, I guess if you were to compare it to a situation in a hospital, it was the patient was in critical condition in the ER room, and the surgeons had to do some trauma. That means stop the bleeding. So we stopped the bleeding by, again, simple rules that came out from guys like Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher, or my friend
guys like
Scott
them. Yeah, that's two of my favorite guys there.
You cut spending.
All right, so now people are comparing your success with Puerto Rico's recent struggles. What sets you apart? Because they are bleeding in Puerto Rico.
A little bit. Actually, the former Governor Fortuño did a terrific job.
Amen.
In doing the necessary things in order to cut that deficit. Unfortunately, sometimes those things aren't very popular, and of course he lost his seat. I felt it was important, especially as we looked at what happened with Governor Fortuño, and I kept close tabs with Governor Walker too on how he was moving things along. We had to make some difficult decisions. You're talking about freezing hiring. You're talking about stopping of all purchases unless they're critical. Talking about pay cuts and personnel reductions. So these aren't very popular, but I thought it was important that the message had to be right. We had to market it to the people and to the Guam workers where there were some substantial cuts.
Governor, who is your major source of opposition, and are you worried about getting Fortuño'd here the next election?
Well, the good news is we got a $30-some million surplus out of that deficit, and those pay raises that I had slashed when I first came in, we've reinstated those pay increases to our government workers. And we're doing it at a surplus, and we're doing it in a fiscal responsible manner, which means I don't have any competition yet.
Yeah, you and Kim Jong-un, right?
Well, Governor, quickly, we got a half a moment here, but I'm wondering, having righted the ship in Guam, are you looking towards the mainland? Are you ready to come and repair what's wrong with America? Are you going to announce your presidency for the United States? Candidacy for the presidency?
First of all, you got to get us Guamanians to vote for president, and that's an issue there too. That could take another show of yours. But I think there's some simple principles. The tough thing is when you get closer to Washington, things get too complicated, and there's just so many vested interests there, and it makes fairly tough decisions. It makes it very hard to make tough decisions.
And you can't wear Hawaiian shirts in the White House. Governor Calvo, I invite you back to the Independence anytime you so choose. More importantly, we would like to come visit you and become Guamaniacs on our own.
I would love you to. And by the way, Guam has a lot going for it. We're an American territory. And if you think we're in the middle of nowhere, consider the Hawaiian Islands and picture it being towed 3,500 miles west. So we're directly under...
hop, skip, and a jump. Yeah, I can take a single-engine puddle jumper and be there in a couple hours. Governor Calvo, Eddie Calvo from Guam, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, we are keeping an eye on a missing plane, that Malaysian plane. What has happened to all those souls on board? And maybe we were all wrong about Kim Jong-un. He's really popular in North Korea. And everyone's favorite portly crackhead Rob Ford steps in Shinola. The topical storm is next. Welcome back to the Independence, where we take on one news system at a time. It is your informational tsunami. It is the topical storm. Topic number one, that Kim Jong-un is unstoppable. We all know he's the supreme leader of North Korea, but the dimpled despot was just elected to the highest body in the land. He received 100% of the vote in his reascent with 100% voter turnout. They all had a choice. They could have stayed home on Election Day. They could have all firmly voted no and sent a strong message to Pyongyang. Here's an image of Kim Jong-un voting. Now, despite his youth, he is a political mastermind. Most politicians would kill for these numbers, but Un actually has. From family members to dissenters, that no-nonsense to supremacy must be the reason so many people turned out to give him an electoral high five.
What I don't understand is why did they, in the same election, elect 687 deputies to the party? What are they doing?
Well, it's hard. It's a big country. There are a lot of people there.
Is there the festive debate in the parliamentary chamber?
Exactly what they do. I mean, you call it debate. They call it just sitting on their hands and politely nodding.
Don't they also have compulsory voting in Australia?
Yes,
I mean, I don't think they actually get 100% voter turnout. So this is really a remarkable feat. Another North Korean miracle.
It is.
Yeah.
A March miracle. The miracle of sadness. Topic number 2. If you've been to Florence, you've surely seen Michelangelo's masterpiece, David. The sculpture is larger than life, including a proportional Schwanzstücker. But like you, I've always felt David was missing something. A fig leaf? A lady friend? No, a bolt-action rifle. Thank goodness the smart people at Armalite were wise enough to Photoshop the gun onto the statue. There we go.
Wow.
Problem solved. The Italian government is none too pleased about the stunt. But I think we Merkins can say, screw you, Italia. This one's for Amanda Knox.
Ouch.
What? They convicted her of murder and then unconvicted her and then convicted her again. Kind of a lame system. If we're going to take a bolt-action rifle anywhere, it's going to be to David's hands, so he can make the choice. What would you rather have, a rock or
in David's hand? Well, he kind of used stones, right? It was kind of
well, now he's got the stones to arm himself with a great American-made rifle.
Look out, Goliath.
Thanks to the fine company in Illinois.
Yeah.
That's right, look out, Goliath. It's just about anyone else coming over them thar hills. Topic number 3, whether it's his ginger-covered pumpkin head, his corpulent, sweaty frame, or his penchant for hot crack pipes and cool lady bits, Toronto Mayor Rob Ford can't catch a break. He sent out a tweet Saturday night reminding his subjects to turn their clocks back in anticipation of the time change. The tweet read, "Daylight savings time starts this evening. Turn your clocks back and change your batteries and smoke alarms." Psst, Rob, it's daylight savings. Spring ahead, buddy. Fall back as in fall. As in fall back on your old habits and you won't get reelected.
This is undoubtedly a deft attack on the entire daylight savings time system, which has been reported to cause an increase in car accidents, heart attacks, and all sorts of other stuff because people are losing sleep. I don't know if it's true, but I understand what Rob Ford is doing, and I'm behind him.
I think that he's just going through his late Charlie Sheen period, like after the whole Winning tour. Remember that? And then people
Tiger Blood
and people just kind of tuned him out. So he's going to the Oscars and meeting with people in Hollywood and missing meetings, and now issuing retarded tweets. It's
No, it's pretty great. I just hope there are a bunch of Canadians who were 2 hours late for everything this morning. That'd be awesome. Topic number 4, it's almost spring, which means March Madness, which means racism is in full bloom for at least one Minnesota lawmaker, with the inability to mask his contempt for the men who play in the NBA, most of whom happen to be black. Representative Pat Garofalo, who is a state representative in Minnesota, tweeted, "Let's be honest, 70% of teams in the NBA could fold tomorrow, and nobody would notice the difference with possible exception of increase in street crime." This guy sounds like such a thug. Those are some tough words there, Representative. Now, how can that be construed as anything but racist?
I suppose it could be, but that's pretty close.
His defense is interesting, which he says is just because...
Is it his own defense?
Man to man.
It's a full court press. No, it's that there's so many people who've been guilty of drug crimes. So it's a race-free, a colorblind accusation that people in the NBA, like the European immigrants, are also testing. It doesn't make any sense. If it's not racist, it's some kind of drug warrior rant, and it's apropos of nothing. Like, sitting around, let's face it, if we close down the NHL tomorrow, what would happen? Who's talking about this? Nobody's talking about this.
Yeah, white guys would walk around beating each other up with sticks. Yeah, who would notice? Except for you, Whitey. Well, we've got an honest-to-goodness U.S. representative making his way into the studio. Congressman Jared Polis wants to outlaw the dollar. I love weird politics. It's the Independents.
From the bar, his business people, he's getting deep in whatever he can move on, and you know that kid a creepy. Black coat, white shoes, black hat, Cadillac, yeah. The boys are time bomb. Started moving swiftly down the track. I started counting the bruises she made on my back, and as I reached down to pick up my hat from the floor, I started looking at my brand new suit she had on. I said, "Sister, won't you get up?"
Isn't that pretty? This is the Independents, and this is gold. Bitcoin has been in the news a ton lately, whether it's a major exchange shutting down or the supposed inventor of the digital currency taking reporters on a crazy freeway chase. The story's only getting stranger. A man from West Virginia. His name is Joe Manchin. He's a senator. He wrote a letter to anyone with an address asking for Bitcoin to be banned. Our next guest wrote a tongue-in-cheek response pointing out the criminal connections with the U.S. dollar, the volatility of the greenback, and the $1 billion in stolen cash every year as a reason to shut down the dollar bill, y'all. Is he right? Let's welcome back Democratic Congressman Jared Polis of Colorado. Hello, Congressman.
Good to be here, Kennedy.
So are you a big Bitcoin fan? Why did you put yourself in the position of responding to that crazy letter to Jack Lew and Janet Yellen and everyone else?
Well, you know what? I mean, having alternative currencies is great, right? Because historically, the government's had a monopoly on currency. And, you know, the Fed has done a better job than the Central Bank of Zimbabwe, where it took 100 billion Zimbabwe dollars to buy a loaf of bread.
If you go to Zimbabwe, you can get a $1 million note that expires.
Absolutely. But you know what? But at the end of the day, why should only politicians either directly or indirectly control a currency? We can reduce transaction costs, provide an alternative. And look, I don't know whether it'll be Bitcoin or not, but I think the concept of digital currencies is here to stay. And the fact that a politician would write to try to ban them in their infancy is just the wrong way to go about it. Let the market determine whether there's any value there or not.
Why do politicians always have to inject them? I mean, you're a politician. Are you this kind of politician? I mean, are you just looking for problems and reasons to write letters and new legislation?
Well, there's going to be people in the security law enforcement establishment, right? I mean, the same people that want to make sure everybody's phone call is monitored, the same people that want to make sure that nobody can buy, marijuana legally. And of course, they're going to say, oh my goodness, people might use Bitcoins for illicit transactions. We saw Silk Road, an exchange where you could buy guns that were banned and drugs that were banned, and that was shut down by the government. That was people using for the wrong purpose. But it's not the currency that causes it. The currency of choice for criminals is dollars. It's briefcases full of dollars. I mean, as I pointed out in my letter, Saddam Hussein had a whole room full of $100 bills when we busted him. Is that a reason to ban the dollar? I don't know.
Well, Congressman Polis, I mean, Bitcoin does, in fact, exist, however, in a vague sort of regulatory limbo where there is a slightly hostile environment. There are politicians suggesting they may outlaw it. Are you willing to sort of go out and potentially propose some regulation that would give us at least a technology-neutral regulatory environment that will allow folks to invest and build Bitcoin businesses?
If people are looking to say, if people are saying, look, we got to ban Bitcoin because it's somewhat anonymous and anonymous transactions can occur, or because it is possible for criminals to use it, all of those arguments can be used to say just ban dollars. I mean, if you really are out to get illicit commerce, why don't you just ban commerce altogether? Right. Why not ban all commerce?
But we still don't know if Bitcoin is the government going to treat it as a currency? Is it a commodity? Is it a security?
The government doesn't need to treat it at all.
But I mean, it's there. For tax purposes,
well, if you make a profit, you pay your income tax. I mean, and if you tax fraud, the government goes after you. I mean, when somebody on Silk Road was selling things that were illegal, they were arrested. Didn't matter if they were selling them in dollars or Bitcoins or units of gold or Zimbabwe dollars or euros. I mean, that's secondary, the currency they use. If you're doing something illegal, you get prosecuted. I mean, the government policy should be completely agnostic about what unit of exchange is used.
Is it popular in Colorado, Bitcoin?
Yeah, it's probably, I have a pretty high-tech district. It's probably, popular like it is in California and New York and other areas like that. It's probably not the most widely used currency in rural Alabama.
Not yet.
Not yet, that's right.
But wait till you're done with it, Congressman Jared Polis. Thank you very much for coming by. It's
always
nice
a
to
pleasure.
see you in the flesh.
There you go, I'm here.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, it's a dream come true and only getting better. Where is that damn plane? We'll get to that a little later. But next, Nina Khrushchev's great-granddaughter, Nina, breaks down what's really going on in Ukraine and sheds some light on the man behind the Crimean land grab, Vladimir Putin. Vlad may not be glad, but you will. So stay with us. Welcome back to The Independence. The international community is hamstrung by Russia's daring antics in Crimea. But are they surprising? Is the fallout from Ukrainian unrest the fault of our weak president, or just some rehashed bullying from Vladimir Putin thrust upon all modern presidents? Here to answer these questions, let's welcome Nikita. Can you believe I said that? I got all excited. Nina Khrushcheva. She is a professor of international affairs at the New School. She's the author of The Lost Khrushcheva. Welcome, Nina.
Thank you.
So, Nina, tell me what's going on with Vladimir Putin, because you have actually had the best description of the Russian president of anyone I've seen. What is he doing? What is his makeup? And why do U.S. presidents have such a hard time responding to his game?
He is being a strong president, as he calls himself. He thinks he owns the world now because he ran very successful Sochi Olympics and everybody was predicting how horrible it's going to be. So I think he's a little bit drunk on his success, and he decided that a little this maraschino cherry on top of his Sochi sundae is going to be that great Crimean victory. So that's what he's doing, and I think we should be prepared for more of this kind of antics, as you very correctly use that word.
And is our president doing something wrong? Because he is being sort of lambasted in the U.S. press, particularly from conservatives, for not taking a stronger role. But is a stronger role possible from the U.S. president?
The stronger role is not possible. I think it's really not the American fight at this point. I understand that the Senate and the president want to show that they really care, and good for them. But it's really European call, in a sense that they should be leading on this conversation with Vladimir Putin, and the United States actually should take a step back and allow Europe to handle that, because they're much better equipped. They much better understand that, especially Angela Merkel.
You said in an interview with National Geographic last week that you think it's possible that Putin will choke on Ukraine. What do you mean by that?
Well, what I meant is that I understand that Crimea seems to be that little cherry that he wants, because Crimea originally was part of Russia for centuries, and then almost by fluke it got to be owned by Ukraine.
A fluke involving
involved Nina Khrushchev, yes. He transferred Crimea from Russia to Ukraine within the Soviet Union.
And was Catherine the Great spinning in her grave?
I'm not sure. I think Catherine the Great probably would think that it did never belong to Crimea, and so good for Putin for actually crushing all those other people. So no, but choke on Ukraine. What I'm saying is Putin decides to go beyond Crimea. I really don't know how he's going to survive that kind of an international outrage. What would be worse than North Korea? Kim Jong-un would be a prince comparing to Vladimir Putin. And I don't know if he's settled for that. I don't think he likes.
Is it your sense that Putin is making this up as he goes along, or is there some sort of grand strategy that he's actually playing out here?
Well, look, we are not strategic people, let's just face it. But we are really good at tactics, and he is a brilliant tactician. He is a politician of opportunity. He saw an opening, he went in, although I'm pretty sure that he actually looked at this opening before even it happened, and thinking how he could unite other parts that used to be part of the Soviet Union, were given away, and now he thinks which he can take. But I think the danger, the big danger, and that's what I think Europe should come in, and Barack Obama come in as a second fiddle, not the first fiddle in this, is that disintegration of Ukraine would be an absolute disaster. So eastern parts of Ukraine and western part of Ukraine, sense of Crimea, really they should figure out how to keep it as one country. And that's why diplomacy should be working.
All right, Dr. Nina Khrushcheva, thank you very much for joining us here. And this is an ongoing story. I hope you visit us again with more insight.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Planes don't just disappear on their own. Or do they? Terrorism? Ocean vortexes? Aliens? What in the world happened to that 777? We've got more answers than questions. Next. Welcome back to The Independence. Like you, I spent much of the weekend obsessing about that Malaysian plane that disappeared off the grid with no passengers, plane bits, or oil slicks in sight. How can this happen? What can it be? What does your gut tell you? What is this? Is this terrorism? What does it look like?
It looks like a plane disappeared.
How does a plane disappear? What does that mean?
I think it crashes into the ocean. I mean, we saw earlier when we had the Indiana Jones plane crossing the Pacific Ocean to Guam there. Ocean's a big place. We were looking at it on your app today. He has some fancy app stuff there. And if you just kind of go over the globe, there's so much empty airspace there. Do you remember about 3 years ago? I know I'm rambling on here, but do you remember like 3 years ago in California on the coast, it was sunset, and everyone saw these weird chemtrails, and they couldn't figure out what they were. Was it a terrorist, like rockets? Was it this? Was it that? It turns out it was a plane and the streaks from the plane. But you would think that we in Santa Monica, California, would be able to measure absolutely everything.
I thought it was at Point Mugu. I thought they were just testing stuff.
I think, anyways, you would think right on the coast of Southern California that we can measure everything and know everything, and yet the national security establishment couldn't say anything. No one knew anything for a couple of days. If we can't know that in Southern California, what the hell do you think we can know?
I want to know something.
I
mean, the one thing they're so quick to do, it is recover black boxes and figure out what happened with plane crashers, because this is one of the greatest anxieties human beings face. I mean, we have to reconcile our primal fears with great technology, and that means getting in these capsules that just soar through the sky.
And the thinking is that you are tracking the flight sort of all the way along the way. So if it suddenly disappears, you go out and you look around that spot and you find some debris. It's really difficult to say what happened here. Obviously, I have no idea. Did it vaporize at 35,000 feet? The one thing I will say, and I'm even a little reluctant to say this because I haven't looked, but I bet Alex Jones and company are probably making up some obnoxious explanation for what happened.
Conspiracy theories began from the moment there were reports that they couldn't find the plane. Everyone's got an answer when you've got a big looming question like that. It's so unsettling, though, for anyone who gets on a plane on a regular basis that one of those things can disappear by whatever means, whether it crashed somewhere. I hope that it was hijacked and taken somewhere and everyone is alive and well, and we are going to see them reunited with Diane Sawyer very soon.
Yeah, you know, the conspiracy theories arise on plane crashes partly because plane crashes are never really investigated that well. The TWA 800, the Egypt Air plane crash, a lot of those investigations were really kind of shoddy.
Even the Air France flight that crashed in 2009 took them a while to figure it out. And by the way, we want to go back to the Senate floor to see what's happening in the NapFest, YapFest. We've got Bernie Sanders.
Bernie!
A senator who's been a guest on this fine program right here. He's the socialist from Vermont, and he's mad as heck, and he was a brunette before the night began. That's how long they've been talking about ending global climate change in the Senate all-nighter.
Isn't keeping the lights on all night kind of contributing to global warming? That seems like a bad idea. Shouldn't do that. Is it cynical?
It is cynical,
Matt?
but
really?
The thing is, where this stands right now is on the international stage. It's not on the Senate. It's negotiating treaties that the U.S. won't sign and that China won't sign in India. So what are they even talking about?
So there you go. All right, we've done all we can here. Thank you so much for watching. Go right now to our webpage and see The Independence After Hours. It's our live web show. And we are going to have a pleasurable night tonight. foxbusiness.com/theindependence. And it's just, a few minutes of sitting around talking about the show, talking about your feelings, and more opinions on what happened to that damn plane. For Matt Welch and Camille Foster, I'm Kennedy, wishing you a very good night. We will be back here tomorrow night for an all-star lineup, only on Fox Business. It's The Independence. Peace out, peace in. Good night.